Welcome into the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. I'm Tom Leach, along with Keeneland's Director of Simulcasting, Jim Goodman, as we will do a mini podcast for every racing day, except for our expanded one that we do on Saturdays. And we've got two stakes races on the Keeneland card to close out Fall Stars weekend on Sunday. We'll start with the seventh race. It's the Grade 3 Bourbon for 2-year-olds on the turf, going a mile and a 16th. And Bashert wrote a really strong bias to a win last time. The last week or so of the meet up at Saratoga, if you got to the lead and especially some days down on the inside, you couldn't lose, and that's what he did. And so I tended to downgrade a lot of those horses that won those races, and so because of that, I'm going to try to beat him with Tiger Bourbon, who was fourth behind him in the with anticipation, and then came back and had some trouble in his race down at Laurel. So he's stretching back out again to two turns. And for Eddie Keneally, Rosie Napravnik, and I think might have a shot to pull off the upset over Bashert. Bonji Moon, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the 7. Ran a big number last time at Kentucky Downs, real impressive. And then Poker Player for Wayne Catalano I'd use as well, but I'd key around number 2, Tiger Bourbon. What about you?
I'm going to try to beat Bashert as well. I think you're correct. In Saratoga, if you got on the lead on that turf course, you were just gone. And this turf course normally plays to speed, but I'm not sure it's going to be that speed biased. So Boji Moon, if you look at the race at Kentucky Downs and you just take that one on its own, it's a pretty good race. But at Prairie Meadows on the dirt, 1 by 11 and 1 by 12, and the Beyer progression is 75, 82, 86. I really like that. I really like horses coming off Kentucky Downs, very undulating turf course, stretching out from 7 furlongs to mile and 16th. Chris Richard is not a trainer you hear a lot about here. 29% for 2013, 95 wins and 327 starts. So I promise you this horse will be ready. So I think Boji Moon is the pick for me. Bashert second. Why Are You Awesome was one of the favorites in the Arlington, Washington Futurity. Went off of 3-1, I think. And if you watch, as we're taping this, Solitary Ranger has not run in the Dixiana on Saturday. Solitary Ranger comes back and dominates that race, and he's got that. I think Why Are You Awesome maybe looks a little better, maybe moves up. But I'm going to take Boji Moon on top.
Yeah, I almost went there to that horse. It was really impressive down at Kentucky Downs. Eighth race is the Grade 1 Juddmonte Spinster, the last stake of Fall Stars weekend. And we've got the Ashland winner, Emollient, trying to come back and win the Spinster in the fall. And I don't have this stat, but I doubt many 3-year-olds have done that to win the Ashland and come back and win the Spinster in the fall. Do you think she'll do it?
Yeah, that's a tall order. I remember last year when Dillahan went to the Pacific Classic and won the Bluegrass here as a 3-year-old and won the Pacific Classic as a 3-year-old. We couldn't figure out if anybody had ever done that before. I think this is also a tough double to handle. I mean, Emollient ran great in the Ashland, was coming off a week layoff, if you remember, when Bill Mott brought her back after she bombed at Gulfstream. And in the Ashland, she won by 9 just for fun. And Mike Smith has still been on her the last few races. She kind of comes and goes. She runs well, then she runs okay. And if she loves Keeneland this time as much as she loved Keeneland last time, they're probably running for second. I'm going to try to beat her with Bayrama, who's been out west against the best horses in the West, ran against Game On Duty last out in the Pacific Classic. Probably wasn't the best distance for her, and she shortens back up to 1 mile and 1/8, and I've liked her out there. And then Clement Hurst got beat by Lady of 50, so I'm going to pick her here. 4-year-old over a 3-year-old, 4-year-old with Grade 1 experience over a 3-year-old with Grade 1 experience. Bayrama also nearly won the Madison here last year, so she clearly loves the track, and she's taken on the best horses in the West, so I think she's in good shape. I can also make a case for On Fire Baby. She was no match for Royal Delta last out, but nobody's a match for Royal Delta except Princess of Silmar. But if you take that race out at the Personal Incident at Saratoga and go back to her Churchill form, she looks right there, too. So I think it's going to be a really great race. I don't think Emollient is a lock by any stretch of imagination. So I'm going to take Bayrama, give a shot to On Fire Baby.
Emollient for me, and it's those two, Emollient and Bayrama. I think one of those two wins it. And I was just so impressed with how much she moved up on the Keeneland main track in the spring that I'm going to take her to come back and do this and pull this feed off for trainer Bill Mott. I think she got a good style. Here's a decent amount of speed, and she won the Ashland wire to wire, but she certainly doesn't have to have the lead, so she could just sit a length or so off and then get maybe first run on Bayrama turning for home. So Emollient for me over Bayrama, and then I'd use the 3 and 2 in exactas as well. But emollient is going to be the one for me. If I were spreading out, I think I'd feel safe using just those two in horizontal wagers. I think one of those two will win the Juddmonte Spinster. Best of luck, everybody, and we'll be back on Wednesday to resume our podcasts at the Keeneland Fall Meet for the KeenelandSelect.com In the Money podcast.